everyone. Welcome to another immersive episode of Tuesdays with Trailblazers by HR Tech Edge, the video podcast where we'll be exploring the latest trends and insights in human resource and technology. I'm your host, Neha, and today we have someone who has over 20 years of professional experience under his belt. He served as Chief Product Officer at Denso International, led BMIT as its Chief Growth Officer. He's none other than Patrick Darcy, CEO of Capability.co, a company unleashing human potential to power the future of work. Please join me in welcoming Patrick Darcy. Hello, Patrick. It's great to have you with us today.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll start with the company and we would, deep dive into what you've been doing and how you foresee the future. So we're thrilled to learn about Capability.co and how you're transforming the future of work. And if you could share a little bit about your background, what brought to you this role. So yeah, over to you.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with the last part of that, which is kind of what brought me here. But in the 20 years you refer to, I think I've been lucky enough to lead lots of different teams of different sizes, different people, very diverse kind of teams in different areas. And I think one of the things that was consistent through that journey and my own sort of growing awareness as a leader is that understanding the value of the whole individual in front of you and really working to unlock all of what that person brings in to the work setting is a really fundamentally key part of how you drive culture, deliver results, and build teams that kind of love what they do, and inevitably businesses that end up succeeding. So although I've worked in a lot of different sectors, different industries, and as I said, in diverse ranges of teams, one of the things that was really consistent for me is my only job is seeing the whole human in front of me or group of humans in front of me and creating a space where we're allowed to show up and just be ourselves, but be all of ourselves. And so that journey for me has been a wonderful one, and I guess is a common thread in my career. And through some combination of serendipity and sliding doors, I met some other people in Capability.co that have codified that basically on the back of realizing the same thing, but not through practice, through 30 years of research, have now actually built a set of tools that help organizations do what I just described at scale. So it was sort of the meeting of a philosophy for me that I thought was just something that I'd learned as a leader, in realizing actually, no, there's a way here, there's a vehicle in Capability.co, which is getting that out and to scale, which for me, I just fell in love with. And then you sort of realize at the moment, we talk a lot about the future of work, which for me defers the issue. It's here now, like the need to do what we're describing, and to understand the value of humans being humans couldn't be any more important right now. Like insert ChatGPT, right? So I don't think we're tackling a future of work problem. I think we're tackling a today workforce problem and opportunity. But yeah, it was sort of the meeting of those two things. I say to people, I feel like I've come home. Like I feel like I've found a place that I get to be entirely myself, and I create a culture where others do. But also we're out there doing that at scale, and seeing what happens even in big enterprise when their potential is unleashed.
Oh, interesting. That's a very different take on workforce, I must say. So, yeah, let me walk you through a little bit. Now you're leading Capability.co for a while. We would love to hear about your experience so far. What are some of the projects or initiatives that you are most excited about?
Oh, good question. I think, yeah, the longer I'm in this business, the more important what we do is. The more I realize that this is now a bit of a journey of purpose for me and us versus anything commercial. So I think the longer I'm in it, the more I realize that. And a big part of that is we work not just in corporate and government, we work in schools. And what we see when we work with schools is disenfranchised kids where the system doesn't support them fully. There's a lot of brilliant kids that don't do well in a math test in a hall with a clock ticking, right? So I think there's two dimensions to our business. But in answer to your question, what are we doing that I'm most excited about? I think in the large enterprise sector, I'm amazed that a 3-year-old, relatively early stage, relatively small business pretty much only has large scale enterprise clients. And we haven't lost a pitch this year. And I don't say that from a place of arrogance. I say that from a place of I think it really substantiates the need around everything that we're sort of talking about. So I'm most excited actually that the little old Capability Co, which is getting much bigger, but we're getting a chance to create change in organizations of 30, 40, 50,000 people, right? That's immense. Now, there's a huge amount of responsibility in that. I don't think many organizations of our size and stage get to say that. So the platform we're being given at the moment is quite profound. I think the responsibility for us and a big part of my role is industrializing what we do, making it fit for purpose in these large organizations, maturing really fast as an organization and in terms of our tools. But I think, as I mentioned, I think probably why a huge part of why we get up every day in the morning and go and do what we do is we're getting a chance to intervene in schools. And that's where the fork in the road for young people is quite significant, right? And the difference is I don't fit. I'm not good at anything. I didn't do well in this test. I won't finish school and I'll go and see my value in a very narrow, very limiting option of careers. Or actually, some of the skills we're learning at school are really important. Some of the technical capabilities are really important, but I'm more than that. I actually have the ability to negotiate in the playground amongst other kids. I have the ability to talk a bully down from bullying someone else. I've learned this stuff in life that doesn't show up in the academic curriculum and in a test in a big hall, like I said. That for me is the single most exciting thing we do, is to illuminate some of that potential in those children that many today don't see that they have, especially in disenfranchised communities or, lots of parts of Australia that they just don't believe they have that pathway, something else. That's it. That's why we get up and do what we do. And we want to be in every school nationally in the next 2 years.
Oh, that's a journey with a purpose, of course. So, yeah. So working in different roles really sharpen your skills and broadens your horizon. Can you tell us your past experiences as CXO that has helped shape your perspective on running a business?
Yeah, I think so I think there's two parts to that answer. And one is my previous experience helps in the sense of for us to have the impact we want to have, there's some things you need to get right. You need to obsess about the experience of the person using your tools on the other side. Obsess about it. And no matter how profound our purpose is, if the experience of the person on the other side doesn't equal that value proposition, if the user experience isn't wonderful and enlightening and all the things we're describing, then we're nothing, right? I think coming out of the media and marketing world, I've led a lot of young people. I feel very old saying this, but very young, like first career out of university young or first career out of school. Their demands on the modern workforce are very different to us and our parents. And, so I think I've also had the benefit of understanding what's behind me, like what's downstream of my expectations are very different. And the demands of young people on the places they work are high. So I think the combination of those two things sets me up well because what we're delivering is beyond a SaaS platform. It's beyond a technology platform. It's beyond a consulting organization. The impact has to be on every individual we meet on the other side. And I think that's a big part of what I kind of obsess about. I think the other half is I just believe in what we do. It's not to do with my experience. This matters. I want my kids to go through school understanding that there's part of their humanism that makes them brilliant and amazing. And part of their ability to succeed academically. That's really important too. I got two young kids, they're 6 and 4. I desperately want them to go through their life knowing that the things we used to call soft skills are really, really important. That has nothing to do with my past experience. I think it has everything to do with being a parent.
Yes, that's true. Actually, you walk them through understanding being more human, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. So, of course, we see a talent shortage. And how are you dealing with that kind of talent shortage? What makes Capability.co come out and stand out from the crowd? Do you have any take on that one?
Yeah. When you view talent through a very narrow lens
Mhm.
of technical skills, or through a lens of a job description, or through
Mhm.
any box that we place kids in, then you're going to think there's a shortage. Like,
Ah,
as soon as we expect 100% of a group of people who are wonderfully different and diverse to fit in a box, 10 or 20% of them fit in that box. So you're going to feel like you have a shortage of talent. You don't. You're just missing the 80 people that have an ability that you don't see. So I think we have a shortage in perspective. It's too narrow. I don't think we
correct.
have a shortage in talent, because the population isn't shrinking. We're not getting dumber. We're getting smarter, right? I think it's the purview with which we address this challenge is our issue, and it's too narrow. And we continue to want to fit people in a competency framework or a job description or a hierarchy or a job title or something. In that world, it's very short of talent. And like I was saying, young people won't accept being in there. So they won't
Mhm.
join your organization, not because they don't have the skills and ability. They don't want to be put in a box. So I think where we help is actually not creating new talent magically out of thin air. It's there. You just need to learn to see it.
Mhm. Of course, I agree to that one. And if you give people that kind of opportunity, everybody is talented that way. That is true.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's not, we're not all equally talented. We're not all brilliant at all things. We can't all operate at the same level. We can't all lead people. I get that. This is not a, broad general statement in the sense of, but there are brilliant neurodiverse people lost in the system. There are people that didn't go to university that are amazing. There are, people, as I said, that might not necessarily show up when measured against hard skills, but are equally brilliant. So I think it's just a different perspective on how you compose a team together, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I think that's more the point.
Correct.
And also how you
Correct.
think about developing people.
Mhm.
Um, like developing them at their core and their core mindset alongside Excel or JavaScript or whatever it is.
Mhm. True. True. So, Patrick, walk me through a little bit about your platform. What's so special about Capability.co that makes it best tool for boosting productivity?
Yeah, so I think I don't want to claim that our tool boosts productivity in its own right. I think what we do is two things. We help the
Mhm.
clients that we work with understand that productivity is
Mhm.
a result of maximizing the whole person in front of you. Like, if we worked with an organization that just wants us to boost productivity through the lens of technical skills and competencies, we can't help. So we're not that like a magic solution to that. I think one of the things we do is actually partly philosophical, which is, you know, um, today, if you were to focus on the things we focused on 20 years ago, just being that kind of more orientation to hard skills, technical skills, whatever you call them, you're probably trying to drive 100% of your focus into about 40% of the person.
Mhm.
So just do the math. Your productivity is going to be low because you're
Mhm.
only getting 40% return. So part of it is helping organizations see the productivity is actually a result of unleashing all of that person, all of their potential is one part. I think the other part though, which is almost in contrast to that, is the science. Um, when I first heard about Capability Co. and only being a few years old, I'm like, there are so many organizations out there focused on the future of work. There are so many organizations out there talking about how they're going to solve for XYZ challenge. Um, and my worry with Capability Co. was a bit like, how can you have the answer here only being 3 years old? This is a systemic issue. And then I realized that actually one of the founders and core of all the IP of Capability Co. is the Institute for Working Futures, which is over 30 years old. And Marcus and his team have dedicated their entire life doing research, understanding this problem. And in fact, for years, knowing where we were going and what the answer was and just not being listened to. So Capability Co. is actually a youngish organization. It's a vehicle to take a very credible 30-plus-year-old research-based organization out to market, have impact. And that I think is the difference for us is I don't think there are many organizations in this space that have that that amount of thoughtfulness and research and constant querying and curiosity around what are we seeing and what's coming. So my decision to come over was almost entirely on the basis of understanding that that's our foundation. That's our foundation. One of the things I said to the team was, in 30 years, it needs to be 60 years of research. We never stop doing this. Like we never, ever stop looking in and outward to the market to understand what are the emerging kind of human traits that are required. So, and if the whole team's on board with that.
That's interesting. So looking at the future, we see that AI is being integrated in every software. So what plans do you have for Capability.co? And if yes, you're planning to do the AI integration, when can we see this in action?
It's already done.
It's done.
Yeah, so we've actually used AI and large language models for probably the last 10 years. And that comes from the Institute for Working Futures kind of history, because our framework, the Human Capability Standards Reference Framework, which is updated every year, is now deployed in many countries around the world. And I think in total over 500,000 people engaging with that framework. So to understand the most important emerging human capabilities, knowledge worker, soft skills, whatever you want to call them. We've been running those models for a long time across that breadth of client and that breadth of people using it to understand, because they change, right? At the moment, your ability to adapt, irrespective of the technological change coming, like ChatGPT, is critical. If you have a high degree of adaptability, you don't mind that AI is coming, you embrace it, right? If you can challenge the status quo, if you're actually someone who doesn't need to understand a lot in depth, but can ask the right questions and challenge the status quo of an organization, you're profoundly valuable. We've only seen those emerge in probably the last 12 months. So we've been actually using AI as a way to understand what's coming for many, many years. And I think it's a fascinating thing when we talk about unleashing human potential and we use AI. A lot of the rhetoric in the market around AI is the victim stand. Like it's taking something, it's taking this, it's taking a role, it's changing things. We are an entirely humanistic organization that uses it. And I think that's kind of the core, right? And it will play a heavy role in the further, when we replatform and we build out a lot of the technology layer that we're intending to do as an organization. AI will be central to that. But we wouldn't call ourselves an AI organization. We just use it because it's there and it's powerful.
It's there, it's powerful. And going with the flow is the best thing you can do, right? You don't have to stay against the flow. Yeah, just run with it, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, it's people are like, it's coming. No, it's arrived. Almost past tense. Any plan to not go with it, any plan not to embrace it, any plan to, some universities will be like, no, we're not allowing it. It's like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work.
Correct. And of course, we are getting into interactive AI after generative, so that's another story. I would like to know a little bit more about what, according to you, a part of skills, what is that particular important factor for a successful career?
Oof, that's a big question. I could get quite philosophical here and go for forever, but I won't. Um, Skills are critically important, really important. But the rate with which the skills that are valued in the workforce is changing is very high. And I don't just mean like as a technical person or an engineer, or it's very high. So I think one of the critical non-technical um, attitudinal based or behavioral based um, capabilities that we see is really critical at the moment is your ability to adapt. It's your ability to adapt because um, if you accept the rate of change in our workforce and it's constant, then it's not about your proficiency level in the current thing that's most important because tomorrow it won't be, right? Your most saleable asset as a human, which most technologies can't do, is show that if it changes tomorrow, you'll learn it and embrace it. And if it changes the day after, you'll learn it again and you'll embrace it and you don't fear it, you invite it. And in fact, what you're demonstrating is your speed to competency to learn and apply new things is super high, not trying to evidence how good you are at necessarily one thing. Now, again, I'm using general terms. I wouldn't want to go to a surgeon that was not expert at a mastery level and deep in their craft of doing that surgery on me. Don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean that specialism and mastery isn't important, but it's the classic T-shaped human, right? It's I using that example. I would also want the surgeon who can talk to me with empathy, who can say, you know what, these are tough decisions. Let me help you articulate the complex science of what we're doing to your family, because they're not going to get what we're talking about, right? And you'll probably want to try and preserve them in this process. And it's that I think is the key. And look, the number one would be that idea of adaptability. But I think beyond that, it's actually, and this is where we support, but I think it's human beings starting to become more secure in the things that make us innately human, right? Not necessarily processing data. It's interpreting it and making a really good decision with the data that you've got. Problem solving under pressure, like all of those kind of things. But I think at the moment, if I was going to do one thing, I'd want to be showing how adaptable I am to change.
Adaptable to change, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. So that brings me to the next question, asking about the future of workforce. I mean, being adaptable is good, but how should an organization stay ahead of the game? Is there anything you would like to give your, bites on?
Yeah. I think the first mistake is thinking it's a future problem. As I said earlier, that defers the issue into the future like it's not true today. It just simply is. So I think the first challenge for organizations is helping them understand that it's today, that they can act and create change. And I think the other thing is many organizations talk about, and governments and industry bodies and lots of things like that. They sort of go back to the point we spoke earlier around this idea of a skill shortage. And how do we train a workforce out of that? How do we rehire and redeploy out of that? You don't. It's too slow. It's too costly. And if you're trying to keep pace with the rate of change that we're talking about, it's near impossible. When you look at it through the lens of, as you said, like technical skills and everything we've discussed. It's not to say that's not really important. It is. But the things that our 30 years of research tells us is the persistent things that are valued in all the generational changes in the workforce are human. And today, where 30 years ago, your ability to do a repeatable task and push a button and pull a lever and was highly valued because it hadn't been automated. it has been automated. So the percentage now of what organizations need for every human being they bring in is to unleash them as a human. So I think that, yeah, the two parts are, it's not a future problem, it's today. It's not insurmountable. But the way to look at it is actually start with your existing people. If you look at their readiness for the future, measuring it in the old world, it's going to show up as the fact that you're not ready, right? If you're measuring your people's readiness for the future, measure them in that future. And that is mostly human capabilities. Not entirely, critically important that professions have deep technical skills and everything. I do not want to undermine that, critically important. But if you had the option in front of you of someone who is a brilliant, brilliant technical expert in their field only, and someone who is a brilliant technical expert in their field, and also high on ethics, aligned to your company's values, future-proofed in your organization, because even as technology disrupts their space, they're okay, they're comfortable with it, because they value themselves as a person alongside that, you're going to take option B every day of the week. And that's a today thing, not a problem we defer to the future. But it's also not only a problem, it's a huge opportunity. The organizations that will win at the moment are the ones that do this now.
Oh, wow. That's interesting and also quite illuminating, because I feel understanding and thinking workforce as human team, it's lacking somewhere in the system, Yeah, so that's understanding human as human and giving them the right path, and just understanding them and giving them the future they deserve is most important, for sure.
100%. And there's just things that will not be replaced by technology. They're just not. If you want to buy a beautiful car and the way it feels when you sit in that seat, only a human being can sit in it and see if it feels that way. And if it doesn't change the seat, like, that's never going to be tested by a machine, as an example, right? So, and there's millions of those. We just got to start embracing it.
Oh, great. So that brings me to the last question as we wrap up the interview. I would love to know your future plans. Where do you hope to see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, myself or the organization, or both?
You. We would like to know what your plans are. Yeah.
Me. I hope we're talking again in 5 years. In fact, I hope we're talking again in 2. But I hope we're talking again in 5 years. And we're in every school. Our tools are in every school in Australia, giving those kids career pathways that don't necessarily solely rely on their academic curriculum. What makes us innately human is being celebrated. And that we played a small role in that, and I got to play a small role in that. This doesn't even have to be a capability coach thing. I'd prefer we achieve that outcome in collaboration if that's what it takes. But I'd love to see the school and university systems disrupted a little bit, and so that the people in it and the kids in it know their real value outside of academia. And I think that we're having a virtual champagne together, because everything we're talking about here is some version of a challenge and a problem is no longer. We don't even need to have this interview anymore, because it's just understood. It's just understood. And whatever the future of work challenge is, it's not one that has anything to do with our ability to just be human. That would be amazing.
And on that note of journey with a purpose, it was an honor to have you on show, Patrick. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights and experiences with us. And thank you all for tuning in today. If you like the episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. And don't forget to check out capability.co to unleash the human potential of your organization. Until next time, stick around with HR Tech Edge for more insights into all things HR and technology. Signing off, your host, Neha. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Thanks so much.